The jungle was burning, not with fire, but with the purple light of the dying sun that hung low over New Seoul. Captain Dae-hyun Kim stood at the edge of the human research station, watching the tree line with careful eyes. Something was wrong. The forest had gone too quiet. "Sir, we have movement," Lieutenant Tae-Yang Park said, his hand moving to the weapon at his side. "Something small, fast." Dae-hyun raised his hand. "Hold your fire. Let me see." A shape burst from the undergrowth. It was low to the ground, moving on 4 legs but occasionally rising to 2. Scales caught the fading light, flashing green and gold. Blood marked its path through the grass. "It's a child," Dr. Hana Yoon said softly, stepping forward with her medical scanner. "Vrakesh, young. Maybe 8 years old by their standards." The creature stopped 50 meters away. It crouched low, chest heaving. Even from this distance, Dae-hyun could see the wounds on its body. Deep cuts marked its shoulders. One leg dragged slightly. The Vrakesh were known across this sector of space. Reptilian predators, warriors from birth. Their empire had existed for thousands of years, built on strength and honor. They did not ask for help. They did not show weakness, yet here was one of their children, alone and bleeding. Dae-hyun took a slow step forward. "Easy," he said, keeping his voice calm and low. "We can help you." The child's head snapped toward him. Yellow eyes, bright and wild, locked onto his face. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Teeth, sharp and numerous, flashed in the dying light. "Captain, be careful," Tae-Yang warned. "Even their young are dangerous." Dae-hyun took another step. He kept his hands visible, open and empty. No weapons, no threat, just a human, small and soft compared to the armored warriors of the Vrakesh clans. The child tilted its head. The growl stopped. Its nostrils flared wide, pulling in air. Once, twice, 3 times. Then something impossible happened. The child stood fully upright on 2 legs. Its tail, which had been lashing in agitation, went still. The tension in its scaled body melted away like morning frost under the sun. It spoke, the words broken and rough but clear enough. "You smell like safe." Behind Dae-hyun, he heard Hana suck in a sharp breath. Tae-Yang made a small sound of surprise. The child took a step toward him. Then another. It was limping badly now, the adrenaline fading and the pain of its injuries returning. But it kept moving forward, kept coming toward Dae-hyun. When it reached him, it did not attack. It did not threaten. Instead, it pressed its scaled head against his chest and made a sound that might have been a whimper. "Get the medical bay ready," Dae-hyun said quietly. "Now." Hana was already moving. Tae-Yang hesitated, then followed, though his hand never left his weapon. Dae-hyun knelt down, bringing himself to the child's eye level. "Can you walk?" The child nodded once. Together, slowly, they made their way into the station. The medical bay smelled of antiseptic and metal. Hana worked quickly, cleaning wounds and applying synthetic skin to the worst of the cuts. The child lay on the exam table, watching Dae-hyun with those bright yellow eyes. Every time he moved away, even just a step, the child would tense and reach out. "She won't let me sedate her," Hana said. "She's too agitated. But she calms down when you're close." Dae-hyun moved to the table and placed his hand near the child's. Not touching, but close. The child's breathing slowed. The tension left her body. "What's your name?" he asked softly. The child struggled with the words. Her species had different vocal structures, designed for growls and hisses more than the smooth sounds of galactic standard. But she managed. "Rylith." "Rylith," Dae-hyun repeated, giving the name the proper clicking emphasis on the first syllable. "I'm Dae-hyun." "You're safe here." Rylith closed her eyes. For the first time since she had stumbled out of the jungle, she looked like what she was. A child, scared, hurt, and far from home. Hana finished her work and stepped back. "She'll need rest and food. Do we have anything she can eat?" "I'll check the database," Tae-Yang said. He was still watching from the doorway, still wary. "The Vrakesh are carnivores. We have some protein rations that should work." Over the next few hours, they learned more about Rylith. She had been separated from her clan during a territorial dispute. Predators had chased her. She had run for days alone in the wilderness. By the time she found the human settlement, she was nearly dead from exhaustion and blood loss. But none of that explained why she trusted them. Why she had called Dae-hyun safe. Hana ran every test she could think of. She checked Rylith's blood chemistry, her neural responses, her hormone levels. She found nothing unusual. The child was healthy considering her injuries. There was no sign of confusion or brain damage. It doesn't make sense, Hana said that night as they gathered in Dae-hyun's office. The Vrakesh raise their young to be independent, strong. They don't have the concept of comfort the way we do. And yet she's sleeping in the corner of my quarters right now, Dae-hyun finished, curled up like a cat. She won't leave my side, Tae-young frowned. Could it be a trick? Some kind of spy operation? She's a child, Hana said firmly. Injured and alone. Whatever this is, it's not a trick. A warning chime sounded from the communications panel. All three of them looked up. Incoming transmission, the AI announced. Source, Vrakesh clan vessel. They're requesting permission to land. Dae-hyun and Hana exchanged glances. Tae-yang's hand went to his weapon again. They've come for her, Dae-hyun said quietly. The Vrakesh ship touched down at dawn. It was a war vessel, all angles and armor. Built for combat rather than comfort. The landing ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics and 6 warriors emerged. They were massive, each one standing over 2 meters tall on their hind legs. Scales the color of storm clouds covered their bodies. They wore minimal armor, as if they needed nothing more than their own natural defenses. Weapons hung from their belts, but their hands remained empty. The leader stepped forward. His scales were darker than the others, marked with the scars of many battles. His eyes, the same yellow as Rylith's, fixed on Dae-hyun. I am Elder Vorn, he said. His galactic standard was perfect, without any of the rough edges that marked Rylith's speech. You have something that belongs to my clan. Dae-hyun stood his ground. Behind him, Tae-yang and a dozen other security personnel had formed a line. Not threatening, but ready. We have a child, Dae-hyun said. Injured. We've been caring for her. Vorn's eyes narrowed. Vrakesh young do not need care. They are strong. She was dying. A long silence stretched between them. Around the landing area, the morning was breaking in shades of purple and gold. Birds, alien but similar enough to Earth species to earn the name, began their songs. Finally, Vorn spoke again. Show me. Dae-hyun led them inside. Rylith was awake, sitting in the common area with a plate of food. When she saw Vorn, she leaped to her feet and made a formal gesture, one fist over her heart, but she did not go to him. Instead, she moved to stand beside Dae-hyun. Close enough to touch, Vorn stared. The other warriors stared. In the Vrakesh culture, children did not seek comfort. They sought strength. They moved toward the strongest, the most capable warriors. They certainly did not move toward aliens, especially not soft, weak humans. Vorn looked at Dae-hyun, then at Rylith, then back to Dae-hyun. Explain this, he said, and for the first time his voice held something other than strength. It held confusion, maybe even a touch of fear. Dae-hyun took a breath. I can't, he admitted, but I think we need to find out why. Elder Vorn had lived for 70 cycles. He had fought in 100 battles. He had seen strange things across the stars, things that defied explanation. But he had never seen this. His youngest clan member, Rylith, stood beside a human. Not cowering, not captured. She stood there by choice, her body relaxed in a way that Vrakesh young never relaxed around strangers. The human was small, barely reaching Vorn's chest even when standing fully upright. No scales protected his soft skin. No claws tipped his blunt fingers. No fangs filled his mouth. By every measure that mattered to the Vrakesh, this creature was weak, and yet Rylith chose to stand beside him. Captain Kim has been very kind, Rylith said in her halting galactic standard. He healed me, fed me, made me safe. Vorn studied the human called Dae-hyun. The man met his gaze without flinching, which showed either bravery or foolishness. Perhaps both. You said you cannot explain this, Vorn said. What do you mean? Dae-hyun gestured toward the medical bay. Perhaps we should speak more privately. Your warriors are welcome to stay with Rylith. Vorn considered this. It went against protocol to separate from his unit, but curiosity, that dangerous thing, pushed at him. He nodded. In Dae-hyun's office, Dr. Hana-yoon pulled up screens filled with data. Charts, graphs, numbers that meant nothing to Vorn, but clearly meant something to her. When Rylith first approached us, she said something strange, Hana began. She said the captain smelled like safety. Vorn frowned. Vrakesh have strong senses of smell. We can detect fear, aggression, illness. But safety is not a scent. Exactly, Hana said. Which is why we started investigating. I ran tests on Rylith. She's healthy. No brain damage. No chemical imbalance. Nothing that would explain her behavior. Then what does explain it? Vorn asked. Daehyun leaned forward. We think it might be us. Humans, I mean. Something about our biology that triggers a response in young creatures. Impossible, Vorn said immediately. Vrakesh young are raised to be strong, independent. We do not need protection. Usually yes, Hana said. But Rylith was injured. Alone, frightened. In that state, instincts take over. And her instincts told her that humans were safe. Vorn wanted to argue, wanted to reject this idea completely. But he could not deny what he had seen. Rylith, who had been missing for 6 days, who should have been wild with fear and aggression, was calm, content. She had eaten well, slept well, and all because she was near this human. What do you propose? He asked finally. A test, Hana said. A controlled experiment. Bring other young Vrakesh here. Let us observe their reactions to humans. If Rylith's response is unique, we'll know it's just her. If others respond the same way, then it means something larger, Vorn finished. He stood slowly, his tail swishing behind him in thought. This was dangerous. If other clans learned that their young were drawn to humans, it could cause chaos. The Vrakesh prided themselves on strength. What would it mean if their children sought comfort from aliens? But he had to know. 3 days, he said. I will bring 5 young ones. We will observe. But if I see any sign of harm, any hint that you are manipulating them, this ends immediately. Daehyun stood and extended his hand. After a moment, Vorn took it. The human's grip was weak compared to a Vrakesh, but firm enough to show sincerity. 3 days later, Vorn returned with 5 children. They ranged in age from 6 to 10 cycles. Each one had been told they were on a training exercise. They did not know about Rylith or the humans. The human settlement had prepared a space for them. An open area with obstacles and climbing structures. Food had been set out. Water. Everything a young Vrakesh might need. The children explored cautiously at first. They sniffed the air, tested the structures. One of them, a bold male named Torvin, climbed to the highest point and roared his dominance. Normal behavior. Exactly what Vorn expected. Then the humans arrived, 5 of them, including Daehyun. They moved slowly, keeping their distance. They did not approach the children directly. They simply sat down at the edge of the area and waited. The children noticed immediately. Torvin stopped his roaring. A female named Sira, who had been investigating the food, looked up. All 5 young Vrakesh focused on the humans. Minutes passed. The children watched. The humans waited. Then Sira took a step toward them. Then another. She was the smallest of the group, barely 6 cycles old. Her movements were cautious but not fearful. She stopped 3 meters from Lieutenant Taeyang Park. Her nostrils flared. Safe, she said in a whisper. Vorn felt something cold settle in his chest. Not just Rylith. This child too, Torvin, was next. He approached Dr. Hanayun with less caution than Sira, but with the same curious intensity. He circled her once, twice. Then he sat down beside her, close enough to touch. One by one, the other children moved toward the humans. Not all of them got as close as Sira and Torvin, but all of them oriented toward the humans rather than away from them. Vorn looked at the other Vrakesh warriors who had come with him. They stood silent, their expressions unreadable behind their scaled faces. But he could see their tails lashing. They were agitated. This is not natural, one of them muttered. No, Vorn agreed, but it is real. That night Vorn sat with Daehyun and Hana again. The tests had continued throughout the day. The results were consistent. Young Vrakesh, especially those under 10 cycles, responded positively to human presence. They were calmer, less aggressive. They ate better and slept more peacefully when humans were nearby. Adult Vrakesh felt nothing special. Vorn himself had spent an hour near Daehyun, trying to sense what the children sensed. He detected nothing unusual, just the normal sense of an alien species. Why only the young? Vorn asked. Why not adults? Hana pulled up more data. I have a theory. Humans evolved differently than most species. Our young are helpless for years. They need constant care. This created strong evolutionary pressure for protective behaviors. But we are not human young, Vorn pointed out. No, but you are young, and young creatures across many species share certain traits. Vulnerability, need for protection. Your children might be recognizing those protective signals in us. Dae-hyun added, we produce chemicals called oxytocin. It's linked to bonding and caregiving. We probably emit other signals too, through our body language and even our scent. Signals that say protector in a language that transcends species. Vorn sat back. This changed everything. If humans truly emitted some kind of universal protector signal, it meant they had a power the Vrakesh had never considered. Not the power of weapons or strength, the power to be trusted by the vulnerable. What will you do with this information? He asked carefully. Nothing without your permission, Dae-hyun said immediately. This is as much about your people as it is about ours. We won't share this data unless you agree. Vorn appreciated that, but he knew the truth would spread anyway. Already his warriors had seen it. They would talk. Their mates would hear. Word would reach the other clans. The question was not whether this information would spread. The question was what they would do about it. I need to speak with the other elders, Vorn said finally. This is too important for one clan to decide alone. Of course, Dae-hyun agreed. Vorn stood to leave. But at the door he paused and looked back. Captain Kim, why do you care about this? About our young? Dae-hyun smiled slightly. Because they're children. And children deserve to be safe. Even if they're not human. It was a simple answer. Too simple, perhaps. But Vorn found himself believing it. As he walked back to his ship with the 5 young ones following behind, he noticed something. They kept looking back at the human settlement. Not with fear or confusion. With something that might have been longing. Rylith had chosen to stay with the humans for now. Vorn had allowed it, though it went against every tradition he knew. She needed more healing, Hana had said, but Vorn suspected the real reason was different. She had found something among the humans that the Vrakesh could not give her. A sense of being truly deeply safe, and that terrified him more than any enemy he had ever faced. News traveled fast among the Vrakesh clans. Within a week, every elder across 3 star systems had heard about the humans and their strange effect on children. Some dismissed it as weakness, others saw it as a threat. But all of them wanted answers. The Council of Elders convened on the Vrakesh homeworld. It was a rare gathering, called only for matters of great importance. War, disease, and now, apparently, humans. Vorn stood before the council, trying to explain what he had witnessed. The words felt inadequate. How could he describe the look in Rylith's eyes when she stood beside Captain Kim? How could he make them understand that this was not manipulation but something deeper, more primal? You allowed alien creatures to experiment on our young, one elder said, his voice dripping with disgust. This is shameful. No experiments, Vorn corrected firmly. Only observation. The children were free to leave at any time. None of them were harmed. But they were changed, another elder said. This one was older, her scales pale with age. You said they were calmer, less aggressive. You have made our warriors weak. Or perhaps, Vorn said carefully, we have learned that strength comes in many forms. Silence filled the chamber. It was a dangerous thing to say. The Vrakesh had built their entire civilization on the principle that physical strength was supreme. To suggest otherwise was to question their very identity. Warlord Kresh stood. He was massive even for a Vrakesh, his scales black as deep space. I will see this for myself, he announced. Take me to these humans. If they truly have this power, then I will witness it. And if this is some trick, I will know that too. Vorn nodded slowly. He had expected this. Kresh was not known for his patience or his open mind, but he was respected. If Kresh accepted what the humans represented, others would follow. Captain Dae-hyun stood in the landing area, watching Kresh's ship descend. It was larger than Vorn's vessel, more heavily armed, a warship in every sense. This could go badly, Lieutenant Tae-yang said quietly. He had doubled the security presence, though Dae-hyun doubted it would matter. If Kresh wanted violence, no amount of human firepower would stop him. Or it could go well, Dr. Hana Yoon said. She stood beside them, her medical scanner ready but hidden. We have to try. Kresh emerged from his ship like a force of nature. He moved with absolute confidence, his warriors falling into formation behind him. When he reached Dae-hyun, he looked down from his full height, his yellow eyes cold and assessing. You are the one, Kresh said. It was not a question. Captain Dae-hyun Kim, he introduced himself, keeping his voice steady. Welcome to New Seoul. Kresh made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are small, Weak. Yet Elder Vorn tells me our young seek you out. I do not believe this. Then see for yourself, Daehyun said simply. They moved to the observation area. Kresh had brought a young warrior with him, a child named Vexa who was perhaps 9 cycles old. She was already large, her scales the deep green of a healthy warrior. She stood beside Kresh with perfect military posture. Vexa is my best student, Kresh said with obvious pride. Strong, disciplined. She will not fall for whatever tricks you use. Hana stepped forward. We don't use tricks. May I explain what we think is happening? Kresh gestured for her to continue, though his expression suggested he was not interested in explanations. Humans evolved as cooperative breeders, Hana began. Our young are helpless for many years. This meant that protecting children became central to our survival. We developed biological and behavioral traits that signal to young creatures that we are safe. Your young are not helpless, Kresh said flatly. No, but they are still young, and young creatures across many species share certain needs. They need protection, especially when they are frightened or hurt. Our theory is that some species can recognize protective signals that humans emit naturally. Vexa, Kresh said, turning to the young warrior. Go stand with the humans. It was phrased as an order, but Daehyun could see the test in it. Vexa would follow orders because she was disciplined. But would she respond the way Rylith and the others had? Vexa walked over to where Daehyun, Hana, and Taeyang stood. She maintained her military bearing, her expression neutral. She showed no sign of the response they had seen in other young Vrakesh. Kresh smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. It was not a friendly expression, you see? My warrior shows no weakness. Your theory is false. Hana started to respond, but Daehyun held up a hand. May I try something? Kresh gestured his permission, clearly amused. Daehyun knelt down, bringing himself closer to Vexa's height. You're a good warrior, he said gently. Strong and brave. Kresh is proud of you. Vexa's expression did not change, but her tail moved slightly, a small sign of pleasure at the praise. But being strong all the time must be tiring, Daehyun continued. Do you ever wish you could just rest? Be young without having to prove yourself? Vexa's eyes flickered. Just for a moment. But Daehyun saw it, the crack in the armor. I am a warrior, Vexa said firmly. But her voice had changed. Less certain. You are, Daehyun agreed. And you're also a child. Both things can be true. He stood up and turned away, giving Vexa space, not demanding anything, just offering. 30 seconds passed, a minute. Kresh watched with narrowed eyes. Then Vexa took a step toward Daehyun. Another. She did not abandon her posture entirely, but she moved closer. Close enough that if she wanted to, she could touch him. Her nostrils flared. Once. Twice. Safe? She whispered, so quietly that only those nearby could hear. Kresh's expression shifted. The amusement vanished. For a long moment, he simply stared at Vexa, standing beside the human she had been meant to prove wrong. That evening, Kresh sat with Vorn, Daehyun, and Hana. The warlord had been silent for hours, clearly wrestling with what he had witnessed. Vexa is my finest student, he said finally. I have trained her since she was 3 cycles old. She has never shown weakness, never faltered in battle drills. And yet she is still a child, Daehyun said gently. Kresh's tail lashed once, hard. This changes everything. If our young recognize humans as protectors, it undermines our entire culture. We teach strength, independence. How can we do that if they seek comfort from aliens? Maybe, Vorn said carefully. We have been teaching them the wrong lessons. Or not wrong, but incomplete. Kresh turned to look at him. Explain. Strength is important, but so is knowing when to accept help. Knowing when to trust. The humans have not made our young weak. They have shown them that they can be both strong and safe. Hana leaned forward. She had been compiling data throughout the day. How she displayed it on a screen for everyone to see. Look at this, she said. We've observed 20 young Vrakesh now. All of them show the same pattern. When they're stressed or afraid, they respond to human presence. But when they're confident and secure, the response is less pronounced. What does that mean? Kresh asked. It means humans don't replace your training or your culture, Hana explained. We trigger a protective response when children need it most. But as they grow stronger and more confident, they need us less. It's not permanent dependence. It's temporary comfort. Kresh considered this. He was a warrior, not a scientist. But he was not stupid. He could see the logic in what she was saying. "What do you want from us?" he asked Daehyun directly. "Why share this information? You could have kept it secret. Used it against us." Daehyun met his gaze steadily. "Because that's not what humans do. We protect. We don't exploit, you say that now. But what about later? What about when this becomes known across the galaxy? Then we deal with it together," Daehyun said. "As allies, if the Vrakesh are willing." Kresh was silent for a long time. Outside, the suns of New Sol set in brilliant colors, painting the sky in shades humans had never seen on Earth. Finally, the warlord spoke. "I will withdraw my objections. Let the council know that I have seen the truth of this. Humans are not a threat to our young. They are—" He paused as if the words were difficult. "They are guardians." Vorn let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. If Kresh accepted this, others would follow. The crisis could be averted, but Kresh was not finished. "However," he continued, "you must understand that not all species will see this as we do. The galaxy is vast. There are those who will see human influence over the young as a weapon to be used or a threat to be eliminated. We know," Daehyun said quietly. "We're prepared for that. Are you?" Kresh asked. "Truly? Because once this becomes known, everything will change. For you and for us." He stood, signaling the end of the conversation. As he walked toward the door, he paused beside Daehyun. "You are braver than you look, little human. Perhaps that is another form of strength we have overlooked." Then he was gone, his warriors following in his wake. Vorn remained behind. "He is right, you know. This will spread. And when it does, you will need allies." Daehyun nodded. "Then I'm glad we have the Vrakesh." Vorn's expression might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with Vrakesh features, but his tone was warmer than before. "Yes, I believe you are." Rylith had been with the humans for 3 weeks now. Her wounds had healed completely, leaving only faint scars beneath her scales. She could return to her clan any time she wanted. But she did not want to. Every morning she woke in the small room Daehyun had given her. It was sparse by human standards, but more comfortable than anything she had known with the clans. No cold stone, no fighting for sleeping space, just soft padding and warmth. She found Daehyun in the common area, drinking something hot from a ceramic cup. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Rylith. How did you sleep?" "Good," she said. Her galactic standard had improved dramatically. Humans were patient teachers. No dreams of running. The nightmares had been bad at first. Dreams of being chased through the jungle of pain and fear and loneliness. But they were fading now, replaced by something that felt almost like peace. Dr. Hana Yoon entered carrying her ever-present tablet. "Rylith, I need to talk to you about something important." Rylith's tail curled protectively around her legs. That tone meant something serious. Humans had many tones, she had learned. This one was gentle but firm. "Elder Vorn sent a message," Hana continued. "He wants to know if you're ready to come home. Your clan misses you home." The word felt strange. The clan caves had been where she lived, but had they ever truly been home? The elders were always testing, always pushing the young ones to be stronger, faster, more aggressive. There was honor in it, but there was also exhaustion. "I do not want to go," Rylith said quietly. Daehyun set down his cup. "You can stay as long as you need to. But Hana is right. Your people do miss you. And you miss them too, don't you?" Rylith nodded reluctantly. She did miss some of them. Torvin, who had always shared his food. Thyra, who was too small to fight but clever enough to avoid most conflicts. Even the elders in their own way. "Maybe we can find a middle way," Hana suggested. "You could visit the clan during the day and come back here at night." Would that work? It was a compromise. Rylith understood compromises now. Humans used them constantly. They balanced needs and wants in ways the Vrakesh never had. Yes, she decided. I will try that. But not everyone was happy with the arrangement. When Rylith returned to the clan gathering area, several of the adult warriors watched her with narrow eyes. Whispers followed her. She heard the words even when they thought she could not. Corrupted, weakened, tainted by aliens. One warrior, a female named Grax, stepped into her path. Grax was young for an adult, barely 15 cycles. She had something to prove. "So the human pet returns," Grax said loudly, making sure others could hear. "Tell me, little one, have you forgotten how to be Vrakesh?" Rylith felt her scales prickle. Anger rose in her chest. But under it something new. A thought that would never have occurred to her before. She did not have to fight. Not every challenge required claws and teeth. I have not forgotten, Rylith said calmly, but I have learned new things. Humans are not weak, Grax. They are strong in different ways. Weak is weak, Grax snarled. They have soft skin, blunt claws. They cannot even survive on their own in the jungle. They survived well enough to travel between stars, Rylith pointed out. To build settlements on hostile worlds, to create medicines that healed me when I would have died. Is that weak? Grax's tail lashed with frustration. She wanted a fight. Rylith was not giving her one. You speak like them now, Grax accused. You think like them. You are not one of us anymore. I am Vrakesh, Rylith said firmly. But I am also learning that there are many ways to be strong. Maybe you should learn that too. She walked past Grax, her head held high. Behind her she heard gasps and murmurs. A young one did not walk away from an adult warrior. It was disrespectful. Possibly dangerous, but Grax did not attack. Perhaps she was too surprised. Or perhaps deep down she recognized something in Rylith's words. Elder Vorn found Rylith later that day. She was sitting by the water pool, watching the other young ones play. They had not approached her yet. She was different now, and children could sense difference even more than adults. I heard about your encounter with Grax, Vorn said, settling down beside her. She wanted me to fight, Rylith said. I did not, and now she is confused and angry, but also thinking. You handled that well? Rylith looked at him in surprise. She had expected criticism. The Vrakesh way was to meet challenges head-on. The humans are changing you, Vorn continued, but perhaps not in the way Grax thinks. You are still strong, Rylith, but now you are also wise. Is that bad? She asked quietly. No, it is evolution. Species that cannot adapt, that cannot learn from others, eventually fail. Maybe the Vrakesh have been too proud for too long. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Vorn spoke again. Rylith, I need to ask you something. When you are with Captain Kim, what do you feel? Help me understand. Rylith struggled to find the words. Galactic Standard was good for many things, but some feelings did not translate well. When I'm hurt or scared, she began slowly. My body wants to hide, to run, but with the humans I do not need to hide. I can be hurt or scared and it is okay. They do not punish weakness. They help heal it, and that makes you feel safe. Yes, not safe like strong walls or sharp claws. Safe like... She paused, searching. Like knowing someone will catch you if you fall. Vorn absorbed this. The Vrakesh taught their young to never fall. But perhaps that was the problem. Everyone fell sometimes. The question was whether you had someone to help you back up. The council has made a decision, Vorn said. We are going to formally ally with the humans. It will be announced soon. But first we need to prove to the other clans that this alliance is beneficial. How? Rylith asked with a demonstration. Warlord Kresh has proposed a test. A young warrior will be placed in a situation requiring both strength and protection. Both Vrakesh warriors and humans will be present. The young one must choose who to turn to. Rylith's stomach tightened. She did not like the sound of this. Tests could be dangerous. Who will be tested? She asked, though she already suspected the answer. A volunteer. Someone brave enough to help us prove that what you experienced was not unique. Someone who trusts both the Vrakesh and the humans enough to be vulnerable in front of them. The message was clear. This was not an order. But it was a request from an elder who had protected her, who had allowed her to stay with the humans when others wanted to forbid it. I will do it, Rylith said. If it helps, I will volunteer. Vorn placed a clawed hand gently on her shoulder. It was a rare gesture of affection from a Vrakesh elder. You have become very brave, little one. The humans have taught you well. When Rylith told Daehyun about the test, she saw concern flash across his face. Humans were very expressive, she had learned. They did not hide their emotions behind scales and stillness. You don't have to do this, he said immediately. This isn't your responsibility, but I want to, Rylith insisted. You helped me when I was alone. Now I can help you. Hana was less worried and more clinical. She asked questions about the test parameters. How dangerous would it be? What safety measures would be in place? Who would be observing? The danger will be minimal but present, Rylith explained. Enough to cause real fear but not real harm. Vrakesh elders will monitor everything. If I am in true danger, they will stop the test. Lieutenant Taeyang, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. And what exactly will you be tested on? Choice, Rylith said simply. When I am frightened, who will I run to? The strong Vrakesh warriors who represent everything my species values? or the gentle humans who have shown me a different kind of strength? Daehyun was silent for a long moment. Then he knelt down to her level as he often did. Rylith, listen to me carefully. Whatever you choose in this test, it will be the right choice. If you feel safer with the Vrakesh warriors, that's okay. We won't be hurt or angry. But what if they think I am weak? Rylith asked. What if choosing you proves that I am corrupted? Then they will be wrong, Daehyun said firmly. Seeking help when you need it is not weakness. It is intelligence. Remember that, Rylith nodded. But deep inside she was not entirely sure she believed him. The Vrakesh part of her, the part that had been raised on stories of warrior glory and honorable combat, whispered that needing anyone was shameful. But the part of her that had survived the jungle, that had stumbled bleeding into the human settlement and found not judgment but healing, that part whispered something different. It whispered that maybe, just maybe, there was strength in knowing when to ask for help. And in 3 days she would find out which. The morning of the test arrived with heavy clouds overhead. Rylith stood at the entrance to the testing ground, watching as Vrakesh warriors and humans took their positions. The area had been carefully prepared, obstacles, hiding places, and in the center a simulated threat. It was a mechanical predator, designed to look and move like the creatures that hunted in the deep jungle. Its roar sounded real enough to make Rylith's scales prickle with ancient instinct. Even knowing it was not alive did not stop her body from responding with fear. Warlord Kresh stood before the assembled witnesses. There were dozens of them, elders from multiple clans, human observers, even some representatives from other species who had heard about the unusual alliance forming between Vrakesh and humans. This test is simple, Kresh announced, his voice carrying across the gathering. The young warrior Rylith will face a threat. On one side, Vrakesh warriors will be positioned. On the other, humans. When the threat activates, she must choose where to run. Her choice will be instinctive, not planned. That is the only way to know the truth. He looked directly at Rylith. Are you ready? Rylith's heart pounded. She could feel every eye on her. The weight of expectation pressed down like a physical force. But she nodded. I am ready. She entered the testing ground alone. To her left, 3 Vrakesh warriors stood in formation. They were massive, powerful, everything her species aspired to be. Their scales gleamed. Their muscles rippled. They represented strength in its purest form. To her right, 3 humans stood waiting. Daehyun was in the center with Hana and Taeyang flanking him. They looked small compared to the Vrakesh. Vulnerable. Their soft skin and gentle eyes seemed almost out of place in this arena designed for warriors. Both groups were equidistant from her position. Neither was closer. Neither had an advantage. The choice would be purely hers. The mechanical predator was hidden, waiting for the signal. Rylith knew that when it appeared, it would move fast. There would be no time to think. Only to react, a horn sounded. The test had begun. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Rylith stood in the center, her breathing controlled, her muscles ready. She tried not to look at either group. Tried not to favor one direction over the other. Then the predator burst from its hiding place with a roar that shook the air. It was huge. Larger than she remembered from the jungle. Its mechanical jaws snapped with terrifying speed. Its eyes glowed red, tracking her movement. Every instinct Rylith possessed screamed danger. She froze for a heartbeat. Then her body took over. She ran. Her legs carried her without conscious thought. Her eyes locked onto a destination. Her body knew where safety lay. Not toward the Vrakesh warriors with their strength and weapons. Toward Daehyun. She reached him in seconds, pressing close to his side. Her body shook with adrenaline and fear. But the moment she was near him, something in her chest loosened. The panic receded. The terror became manageable. The mechanical predator stopped its advance as programmed. The test was over. Silence filled the testing ground. Rylith looked up at Daehyun. He was watching her with those gentle human eyes, and she saw no judgment there. No triumph. Just concern for her well-being. Are you okay? He asked quietly. She nodded, not trusting her voice yet. Then she turned to face the assembled witnesses. What she saw in their expressions varied wildly. Some Vrakesh elders looked shocked. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked angry or disgusted. But Warlord Kresh, standing at the front of the group, looked satisfied. The debriefing took place in a large chamber that had been converted into a meeting hall. Rylith sat between Daehyun and Vorn, feeling the weight of dozens of stares. Kresh stood at the center, addressing the crowd. The test was clear. When faced with genuine fear, the young warrior chose the humans. Not because she has been brainwashed, not because she has forgotten her training, but because something in human biology triggers a protective response in our young. One of the elders, an ancient female named Thra, stood up. This is shameful. Our young should seek strength, not comfort. They seek survival, Vorn countered, standing as well.
Is that not the most basic strength?
Knowing where to find safety when you need it. Safety makes us weak, Thra insisted, does it? Kresh's voice cut through the argument. I have trained warriors for 40 cycles. I know strength when I see it. And I saw strength today. Not in running toward power, but in recognizing protection. He gestured to Rylith. This young one survived alone in the jungle for days. She fought predators. She endured pain and hunger. That is Vrakesh strength. But she also recognized when she needed help and where to find it. That is intelligence. Both are necessary for survival. Dr. Hana Yoon requested permission to speak. When Kresh nodded, she stood and activated a holographic display. We have studied this phenomenon extensively, she began. What we have found is that human protective signals are strongest when young creatures are in genuine distress. It is not a replacement for natural development. It is a supplement during critical moments. She showed data comparing Vrakesh children who had contact with humans versus those who did not. The results were striking. Young Vrakesh exposed to humans showed lower stress hormones, faster healing from injuries, and better social development. But they did not lose their natural aggression or fighting ability. In fact, Hana continued, some measures suggest they may develop into more effective warriors because they experience less developmental trauma. A child who feels safe can focus on learning rather than constant survival. This caught the attention of several elders. Warriors were everything to the Vrakesh. If human presence could produce better warriors, that changed the calculation entirely. Elder Thra was not convinced. And what do the humans gain from this? They do not offer protection for free. No species does. Daehyun stood. He had been quiet until now, letting others speak. But this question was directed at him and it deserved an answer. We gain allies, he said simply. Friends. Partners in a galaxy that can be hostile to newcomers. But more than that, we gain the knowledge that we are doing what we were evolved to do. Humans protect children. All children. It brings us satisfaction that no amount of trade or territory could match. That is not a logical answer, Thra said. No, Daehyun agreed. It is an emotional one. Humans are emotional creatures. We do not apologize for that. Kresh made a sound that might have been a laugh. Perhaps that is why they are effective guardians. Logic can be cold. Protection requires warmth. The debate continued for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Some elders remained opposed. Others were swayed by the data and by what they had witnessed. But slowly a consensus began to form. Finally, Kresh called for a vote. All those in favor of formalizing an alliance with humanity, show your marks. One by one, elders raised their clawed hands. Not all of them. Perhaps 2/3 of the assembled leaders. But it was enough. More than enough. The motion passed. Rylith felt something bloom in her chest. Relief, yes, but also pride. She had helped make this happen. Her choice, her trust, had proven something important. That evening, after the formal proceedings were over, Rylith found herself alone with Daehyun on one of the human settlement's observation decks. The stars were brilliant overhead, more than she could count. Thank you, she said quietly. Daehyun looked down at her. For what? For being safe. For letting me be weak when I needed to be. For not judging me, he smiled. You were never weak, Rylith. Being afraid does not make you weak. Everyone is afraid sometimes. Even humans, even you. Especially me. I was terrified today. Terrified that the test would hurt you. Or that you would feel pressured to choose one way or another. I wanted you to be safe regardless of what you decided. Rylith considered this. The idea that someone as capable as Daehyun could be afraid, could admit it openly, was still strange to her. But also comforting. What happens now? She asked. Now we build the alliance. Slowly, carefully, there will be challenges. Not everyone accepts this as easily as Vorn and Kresh, but we will work through them. And me? What do I do? Whatever you want, Daehyun said. You can stay with us. Return to your clan full-time. or continue splitting your time between both. The choice is yours, Rylith. It always has been. She looked out at the stars again. Somewhere up there other species lived. Other civilizations. Other children who might feel lost or afraid. I want to help, she decided. Other young ones. Vrakesh and maybe others. I want them to know what I learned. That being strong does not mean being alone. Daehyun placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Then that is what you will do. And we will help you. In the distance, a ship launched from the spaceport, its engines bright against the night sky. It was carrying the news of the alliance to other worlds. Soon everyone would know. Humans and Vrakesh working together. Guardians and warriors. Two forms of strength united. But Rylith's instincts whispered a warning. Not everyone would see this as positive. Some would see it as a threat, as a weakness to exploit. And they would be proven right sooner than anyone expected. The attack came 3 weeks after the alliance was announced. It started with a distress signal from the edge of Vrakesh territory. A small outpost, barely defended, reporting unknown hostiles. By the time Vorn's forces arrived, the outpost was empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just empty buildings and silence. But there was a message left behind, burned into the metal walls in multiple languages. We have your young. If you want them back, end your alliance with the humans. 6 Vrakesh children had been stationed at the outpost, learning basic defense protocols. All of them were gone. The news reached New Seoul within hours. Daehyun was in a meeting with Hana and Tae-yang when the emergency alert came through. Vorn's face appeared on the screen, his expression harder than Daehyun had ever seen it. They took them, Vorn said without preamble. A criminal organization called the Syndicate. They specialize in kidnapping and ransom. They must have been watching us. Daehyun felt his blood go cold. How long ago? 6 hours? Maybe 7. We are tracking their ship now, but they are fast and they know these systems well. What are their demands? Hana asked. End the alliance publicly within 48 hours. If we do not comply, they will sell the children on the black market. If we try to rescue them by force, they will kill them. Tae-yang's jaw tightened. That is a tactic designed to make rescue impossible. They know we cannot let children die, but they also know breaking the alliance would be a massive loss. Vorn's eyes fixed on Daehyun through the screen. I'm not asking you to risk human lives for this. This is a Vrakesh problem, but I wanted you to know before we make our decision. Daehyun stood up. Like hell, it is just a Vrakesh problem. We are allies. That means we help each other. Give me 2 hours to prepare a response. Something flickered in Vorn's expression. Surprise, maybe, or gratitude. He nodded once and cut the transmission. The emergency council meeting brought together every key person on New Seoul, military leaders, scientists, diplomats, and Rylith, who insisted on being there despite being the youngest in the room. Tae-yang laid out what they knew. The Syndicate was a well-organized criminal network. They operated across multiple systems, bribing officials and avoiding law enforcement. They had ships, weapons, and most importantly, information networks that let them stay ahead of pursuit. But they also had weaknesses, Hana added. They rely on communication, on moving goods and people through established routes. And they have used this tactic before. Always the same pattern. Can we track them? Taehyun asked. Possibly. The Vrakesh have good sensor technology. We could combine it with our analysis systems. But even if we find them, a direct assault would be suicide. They will have the children in a secure location, probably with explosives rigged as a final deterrent. Then we do not do a direct assault, Daehyun said. We do something they would not expect. Rylith spoke up. I could help. Everyone turned to look at her. She felt small under their gazes, but she did not back down. The Syndicate knows about the alliance, she continued. They know that Vrakesh children respond to humans. They might even have humans working for them. If they do, they might use them to control the captured children. Daehyun saw where she was going. But that also means the children might trust humans even in captivity. If we could get close enough, if they saw a human face they recognized, they might cooperate with a rescue, Hana finished. This could work. But it would require perfect timing and someone the children already trust. I will go, Rylith said firmly. I know all 6 of those children. They have visited the settlement. They trust me and they trust you, Captain. Absolutely not, Tae-yang said immediately. You are a child yourself. We cannot put you in danger. Rylith turned to face him. I am Vrakesh. I can move through spaces you cannot. I can communicate with the children in ways you cannot. And I am small, easy to overlook. Those are advantages. Dae-hyun wanted to refuse as well. Every protective instinct in him screamed against putting Rylith in danger. But he also knew she was right. This was the kind of situation where traditional advantages meant nothing. They needed creativity, flexibility, and trust. We will need to coordinate with Vorn, Dae-hyun said slowly, and we will need a solid plan. Rylith, you would only go in if the situation is stable. At the first sign of real danger, we pull you out. Understood? She nodded solemnly. Understood. The plan came together over the next 20 hours. The Vrakesh located the Syndicate ship through a combination of sensor sweeps and intelligence gathering. It was hiding in an asteroid field, using the rocks for cover. A joint force was assembled, Vrakesh warriors for combat power, human specialists for technical support.
And 3 individuals for the infiltration team.
Dae-hyun, Tae-yang, and Rylith. They approached in a small stealthed vessel, not invisible but quiet enough to avoid immediate detection. The asteroid field provided cover and they used it carefully. When they were close enough, Rylith used her knowledge of Syndicate protocols, information Vorn had gathered from other sources, to identify the likely location of the children. They would be in a cargo bay, probably sedated to keep them quiet. Tae-yang managed to hack into the ship's external systems. It was not easy. The Syndicate had good security, but human technology had some advantages that even criminals could not fully anticipate. We have a route, Tae-yang whispered. Maintenance tunnel. Leads directly to the cargo section. But it is narrow. Only someone small could fit. Rylith and Dae-hyun exchanged glances. She was the only one who could fit. They both knew it. I can do this, Rylith said. Dae-hyun handed her a small communicator. Wear this, keep talking to us. The moment something goes wrong, we are coming in, whole plan be damned. She took the device and secured it to her collar. Then, with a deep breath, she entered the maintenance tunnel. It was dark and cramped. The metal walls pressed close on all sides. Rylith's natural climbing ability helped her navigate the vertical sections, but it was slow going. Every sound seemed magnified in the enclosed space. I am halfway there, she whispered into the communicator. Dae-hyun's voice came back, calm and steady. Good. Take your time. We have you on sensors. After what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes, Rylith reached the cargo bay access panel. She could hear voices on the other side. Multiple people. Some speaking Galactic Standard, others in languages she did not recognize. Carefully, she opened the panel just enough to see through. The 6 Vrakesh children were there, huddled together in a reinforced cage. They were awake but clearly drugged. Their movements were sluggish, but they were alive. 3 guards stood nearby. 2 were armed with energy weapons. The 3rd was monitoring a control panel. I see them, Rylith reported quietly. 6 children, 3 guards. The children are caged but alive. Can you reach them? Tae-yang asked. Maybe, if I can get the guards to look away. Wait, Dae-hyun said. We are preparing a distraction. When you hear an alarm, that is your signal. You will have about 60 seconds. Rylith waited, her muscles coiled and ready. Every second felt like an eternity. Then an alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed. The guards immediately moved toward the door, talking rapidly into their communicators. Rylith did not hesitate. She pushed open the panel and dropped into the cargo bay. The children saw her immediately. Recognition flared in their drugged eyes. Rylith, one of them whispered. A small female named Kira. Quiet, Rylith hissed. I am getting you out. Can you move? They nodded, though their movements were unsteady. Rylith examined the cage lock. It was electronic but simple. She had watched Tae-yang work with similar systems. It took her precious seconds to figure out, but finally the lock clicked open. The children stumbled out of the cage. Rylith guided them toward the maintenance tunnel. It would be a tight fit, especially for 6 drugged children, but it was their only way out. Then the door burst open. A guard stood there, weapon raised. When he saw Rylith and the open cage, his eyes widened. Everything happened very fast after that. The guard raised his weapon. Rylith pushed the children toward the tunnel, and then a blast of energy tore through the wall behind the guard. Vrakesh warriors poured through the breach, Vorn at their head. Behind them came Dae-hyun and Tae-yang, weapons ready. The guard turned to fire at the new threat, but he was too slow. Vorn's warriors were upon him in seconds. Daehyun ran to Rylith and the children. "Are you hurt?" "We are fine," Rylith said, though her voice shook. "Get them out, please." The evacuation was chaos, but organized chaos. Rakesh warriors secured the area. Humans helped move the drugged children to safety. And Rylith stayed close to Daehyun, her heart pounding with adrenaline and relief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved the children, and they had done it together. The days following the rescue were strange. The 6 children recovered slowly from the drugs, their systems fighting off the chemical fog that had clouded their minds. They stayed in the human medical bay, where Dr. Hana Yoon monitored their progress with careful attention. Captain Daehyun visited them every day. He did not do much. He just sat nearby, reading reports or working on his tablet. But the children noticed. They would watch him from their beds, their yellow eyes tracking his movements. On the 3rd day, the smallest one, Kira, asked him a question. "Why do you smell different from other aliens?" Daehyun looked up from his work. "Different how?" "Safe, like Rylith said. But also," she struggled for words. "Like home, but not my home." "A different home," Daehyun smiled gently. "Maybe because humans evolved to care for young ones. All young ones. Our bodies probably send signals that your instincts recognize as protective." Kira considered this. "So you cannot help it? Being safe?" "No, it is just what we are. But I think that is okay. Everyone has their strengths. Yours is courage and physical power. Ours is protection and care." The other children had been listening. Now one of them, a male named Jack, spoke up. "Elder Vorn says that working with humans will make us better warriors. Is that true?" Daehyun thought carefully before answering. "I think it could. A warrior who knows when to fight and when to seek help is smarter than one who only knows how to fight. And a warrior who feels safe enough to heal properly will be stronger than one who never lets their guard down." The children absorbed this. They were young but not stupid. They understood that the universe was more complex than the simple lessons they had been taught. The formal alliance ceremony took place 2 weeks later. It was held on neutral ground, a space station that served as a trading hub between multiple species. Representatives from dozens of civilizations attended, curious about this unusual partnership. Elder Vorn and Captain Daehyun stood before the assembled crowd. Between them stood Rylith, wearing formal markings that designated her as a cultural ambassador. She was nervous, but she hid it well. Vorn spoke first. "For generations, the Vrakesh have prided ourselves on strength and independence. We believed that needing others was weakness. We were wrong. Strength has many forms, and the strongest among us are those who recognize when they need help." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was not typical Vrakesh rhetoric. "Humanity has shown us a different kind of power," Vorn continued. "Not the power to dominate or destroy, but the power to protect and heal. Our young ones recognize this instinctively. They know safety when they encounter it. And safety, it turns out, is its own form of strength." Daehyun stepped forward. "The Vrakesh have taught us something equally important. They have shown us that our protective instincts, which we sometimes saw as a weakness in a dangerous galaxy, are actually valuable. Children need guardians, and guardians need warriors. Together we are stronger than either species alone." Then Rylith spoke, her voice young but clear. "I was lost and hurt when I first met humans. I thought I would die alone in the jungle. But Captain Daehyun and his people saved me, not because I was valuable, not because they wanted something from me, but because helping children is what humans do." She paused, looking out at the crowd. Many species present had young of their own. She could see it in their expressions. Recognition, understanding. "This alliance is not just between Vrakesh and humans," she continued. "It is a promise to all young ones across the galaxy, a promise that there are places where they can be safe, people who will protect them when they are vulnerable, and that asking for help is not shameful. It is smart." The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then slowly beings began to applaud. Not all of them. Some species still looked skeptical or hostile, but enough to matter. The alliance was sealed with the traditional Vrakesh gesture of respect, clawed hand over heart, combined with the human gesture of a handshake. It was awkward and symbolic and perfect. Later that night, after the formal events were over, Daehyun found himself alone on one of the station's observation decks. The stars stretched out before him, infinite and beautiful. Vorn joined him after a few minutes. The elder moved quietly for someone so large. You are troubled, Vorn observed. Daehyun nodded. I keep thinking about what could go wrong. There are species out there who will see our influence over children as a threat. Today proved that some accept us. But others will not, that is true. But you cannot protect everyone from everything. Sometimes you must trust that the good you do will outweigh the harm others try to cause. Daehyun smiled slightly. When did you become so philosophical? Since I met a species that challenged everything I thought I knew about strength. You humans are dangerous, Captain. Not because you have weapons or armies, but because you make others want to be better. That is a power few possess. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. After a while, Rylith appeared, moving between them with the ease of someone who belonged in both worlds. The other ambassadors are asking about me, she said. They want to know if other species respond to humans the way Vrakesh do. What did you tell them? Daehyun asked. That they should find out for themselves. Dr. Yoon has already received requests from 3 other species to conduct studies. Apparently everyone wants to know if their children will trust humans too. Vorn made a sound that might have been laughter. You have started something, Captain. The galaxy will never be quite the same. Daehyun hoped that was a good thing. Time would tell. 6 months later, Rylith stood in front of a newly constructed building on New Sol. It was small but purposeful, designed to be welcoming rather than imposing. Above the door a sign read in multiple languages, The Guardian Initiative. It was a school of sorts. A place where young beings from different species could come to learn, not just academic subjects but also life skills. How to ask for help, how to recognize safety, how to be strong while also being vulnerable. Humans and Vrakesh worked together as teachers. Other species had begun volunteering as well. The initiative was growing faster than anyone had expected. Daehyun joined Rylith at the entrance. Today was the grand opening. Students from 5 different species would be attending. It was a small start but meaningful. Are you ready? He asked. Rylith nodded. I am. This is what I wanted to do. Help others the way you helped me. You have become quite the leader, Daehyun observed. Elder Vorn was right. You are wise beyond your years. I learned from good teachers, Rylith said simply. The first students began to arrive. They were hesitant like all children in new situations, but as they entered the building and smelled the welcoming scents, saw the open spaces designed for safety, they began to relax. A small child from a species Daehyun did not recognize approached him cautiously. She had large eyes and delicate limbs. She sniffed the air once, then moved closer. Safe, the child whispered. Daehyun felt something warm bloom in his chest. Not all species responded to humans the way Vrakesh did, but many did, and for those that did, humanity had a responsibility. Yes, he said gently, you are safe here. That evening, Daehyun wrote a report to Earth Command. It was long and detailed, explaining everything that had happened since that first day when Rylith had stumbled into their settlement. He ended the report with a simple observation. Humanity has always wondered what our role would be in the galaxy. We are not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced, but we have something unique. We are guardians by nature, and the galaxy, it turns out, needs guardians. We did not seek this role, but now that we understand it, we cannot turn away. There are children out there who need to know that safety exists, that help is possible, that being vulnerable does not mean being weak. The Vrakesh taught us that strength and protection can work together. Now we will teach the galaxy that there are many ways to be powerful, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be there when someone needs you. He sent the report and leaned back in his chair. Outside his window, New Sol was settling into night. Lights flickered on across the settlement. In the distance, he could see the Guardian Initiative building, still illuminated. Rylith had asked him once why he cared so much about alien children. The answer was simpler than she probably expected, because they were children. And children, human or otherwise, deserve to feel safe. It was not complicated. It was not political. It was just human nature. And maybe Daehyun thought that was the point. Humanity did not need to be the strongest or the smartest. They just needed to be themselves. Guardians, protectors, safe places in a dangerous universe. It was not the destiny humanity had expected. But as Vorn had once said, sometimes you do not choose your path. You simply walk it. And humanity would walk this path with honor, protecting those who needed it most. One child at a time.